Welcome to this explainer. Have you ever, actually stopped to think about whether the physical layout of your streets, your neighborhood, or your city is actually shaping your inner life? It sounds like a pretty intense question, I know. We usually just judge a city by its traffic, its skyline, or, well, its economy. But today, we're exploring a truly fascinating premise. What if you planned cities specifically to protect the community's soul? We're going to look at an alternative framework for urban design, one rooted in traditional Islamic principles, and see exactly what happens when those ancient ideas meet the harsh realities of modern concrete and zoning laws. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our quick roadmap for today. First, a vision for modern city planning. Second, the principle of warding off harm. Third, applying that principle to new Minya. Fourth, analyzing the social entity. And finally, the result of class distribution. We'll be moving from high-level philosophy straight into a really concrete, fascinating case study. Section 1, a vision for modern city planning. So, when modern planners build a totally new city from scratch, they usually measure success through economic efficiency, right? Maximizing space, streamlining infrastructure, boosting those property values. But our source material today asks a really important question. What if there's a more holistic way to measure success? We're looking at Dr. Ahmed Mansour Al-Musallam's study, Urbanism, Authenticity, and Contemporaneity, an Islamic Vision for Modern City Planning. It brilliantly juxtaposes the towering skyscrapers of modern development with historic, traditional architecture to ask, how do we actually marry the undeniable benefits of contemporary urban development with the deep, protective social principles of the past? Section 2. The Principle of Warding Off Harm. To really understand how the author bridges the ancient and the modern, we absolutely need to look at his core theoretical framework, which is, warding off harm takes precedence over bringing about benefit. This is incredibly profound. It's a foundational rule of Maqasid al-Sharia, which prioritizes the protection of religion, human life, and wealth. So, in plain, everyday terms, this means a city must actively prevent social damage before it even tries to add economic perks. Like if building a massive, highly profitable luxury zone causes the displacement and fracturing of a local community, well, the social harm of that breakdown completely outweighs the economic benefit of the new tax revenue. Prevention of damage has to come first. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the comprehensive breadth of the author's analytical study. He doesn't just look at one single element to evaluate a city's success. He actually breaks the city down into 4 distinct pillars: the urban entity, the social entity, the economic entity, and the environmental entity. True urban success requires all 4 of these to be totally stable. But for our explainer today, we're going to zoom in entirely on that second pillar, the social fabric. Section 3, applying the principle, new Minya. Now, theory is just lofty theory until it actually hits the pavement. In Chapter 4, the author puts this ancient philosophical measurement to the ultimate test by evaluating a real modern city's actual master plan, New Minya in Egypt. Built from scratch in the modern era, did the planners successfully ward off harm to the community's soul, or did they accidentally invite it right in with their blueprints and zoning laws? Let's find out. Section 4, analyzing the social entity. Let's put the magnifying glass directly onto the invisible social fabric that connects all these newly poured concrete blocks. I want to pose a question directly to you. How does a city's physical layout actually protect its religion, its culture, and its social bonds? Just think about your own neighborhood for a second. If there are literally no sidewalks, do you ever actually meet your neighbors? If there's no public square, where does the community actually become a community? The author makes the case that a master plan isn't just drawing lines on a map. It is actively engineering the day-to-day social lives of its residents. In the framework of Islamic urbanism, the neighborhood layout relies heavily on the local mosque, serving as a central, daily social hub. The ideal scenario presented here is that the mosque isn't just some building for sporadic visits. It's an active mechanism for creating a cohesive, interconnected local community. By naturally drawing residents out of their private homes multiple times a day to a shared, central space, the urban layout organically forces neighbors to interact, to get to know one another, and to really bind that social fabric together. It's basically built-in community resilience. Section 5, the result of class distribution. So, that's the beautiful, interconnected theory. But what actually happened when planners laid out New Minya? Well, we're left with a pretty stark contrast. On one side, you have the theoretical ideal, an interconnected community sharing cultural ties and professional backgrounds in organic social hubs. On the other side, the New Minya reality. The author found that the city utilized strict income-based zoning across its districts. Neighborhoods from the 1st to the 7th district were segregated purely by economic brackets, designated as average, above average, and distinguished housing. Your placement in the city was dictated entirely by the size of your wallet. And here is the author's critical reveal regarding this modern planning choice. He writes that because residents are grouped strictly by income, they only share an economic level. They do not necessarily share professional backgrounds, educational levels, or cultural compatibility. When you group people together based on absolutely nothing but their wallets, the social fabric breaks down. It creates this fragmented, uncohesive society. You might live next to someone for years, but because you lack those organic, shared cultural or professional ties, true neighborhood stability simply never forms. So, the crucial point is, according to the author's analysis, the master plan of New Minya basically failed the test of warding off harm. By actively designing a city based on strict economic segregation, the planners accidentally designed social isolation right into the blueprint. True urban development isn't just about pouring concrete and building houses for isolated income brackets. It absolutely begins with social harmony. If the layout fractures the community, that neat and tidy zoning simply isn't worth the societal cost. Which brings us to a final, pretty provocative thought. Think about the modern cities we all live in today. Is our relentless quest for premium zoning, gated communities, and strict income bracket neighborhoods actually doing us more harm than good? Are we trading the deep, protective social bonds of a true community for the sterile comfort of economic segregation? It's a really powerful lens through which to view your own streets. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope you look at your city just a little differently tomorrow.